What's up? This is Classified. You're checking out Potato Salad Radio. Keep listening.
Talk to me about the period from like that shiny suit bad boy, or just about to be shiny suit Mace bad boy.
It wasn't quite there yet.
Not yet. It was like 2 years away.
Well, you're describing the shift from the primacy of the East Coast to the primacy of the West Coast.
Right. What did that do to the relationship of religion and resistance and all this?
Well, I mean, as I said before, these, the Nation of Islam and the Five Percenters were really kind of a northeastern expression. So once, the gangster rap movement, and once, the majors started kind of putting their influence there and pushing that stuff, pushing the other stuff less in the process. As it moved out there, they had different set of priorities. And, the sound of the music was different. The lived experience of things was different, but also the content was very different. This was following more of the Schoolie D, Ice-T school of raps, and it was less about, broken glass everywhere, people pissing. They did that, but in a very different way, in a way where people could really kind of attach all the things they would attach to it if you say the word gangster or thug.
Right.
But that did kind of diminish the role of the Nation of Islam and the 5%. Ice Cube actually brought it back to some degree because after, for his solo, he went and worked with the Bomb Squad.
Right.
He collaborated with Public Enemy and Big Daddy Kane on Burn Hollywood Burn. As a result of that, he then goes and brings the Bomb Squad. Working with those guys, he kind of soaked up a bit of that. So you hear him referencing Farrakhan. You hear him talking about selling bean pies or, selling, all of these things that are fully and completely NOI 5%ers. You look perplexed.
NWA ever used the fruit of Islam as security at one point?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I felt like they did once, but
I know that like the S1Ws were kind of modeled on that.
Yeah.
But that was Public Enemy. So Ice Cube, I don't know. I feel like Ice Cube would have.
I thought there was a time when. Yeah, Ice Cube would have a different approach.
The Nation of Islam still held a lot of sway because in 1997 you had this big beef between Common and Ice Cube, and Tupac and Biggie had been killed by then. So Farrakhan called the hip hop world to Chicago to say we need to deal with this. So that's the extent of the influence and the respect, and the position that the NOI held was that. When things were at their most heated, it was Farrakhan who stepped in and brokered the peace. And it took a while, but now we just saw, they're working together and making a new barbershop movie together.
Yeah,
so, but people are still talking about it. It's significant that they're doing it because that was a really intense beef at a time when people were being killed over stuff like that.
So in a way, the move to the West Coast and the sort of like that being the hub of what was avant-garde in rap at that time, or at least commercially avant-garde in rap, sees a bit of a decline in the more overt influence of religion in rap music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tupac had a lot, though.
He did. But that makes sense. But he was also like, he draws a lineage.
It didn't go away completely. There were still a lot of people who were certainly doing the same kinds of things, asking the same kinds of questions, using religion as an expressive tool to explore different social ideas. But it definitely did kind of take a turn to the secular. And then what we see is the rise of the Dirty South. And the Dirty South was not the northeastern United States. It was the South. It did retain Christianity as a, especially Baptist religion, all that sort of thing, as a primary thing. That kind of comes into play in the hip-hop community at the same time that hip-hop is going mainstream. So as hip-hop moves into the mainstream, that Christian identity is actually a huge help. Because before, if you're using Nation of Islam 5%, as I said, that's more of a voice of opposition. Now you're dealing with the mainstream, so you need to speak the language of the mainstream. So those artists who can use Christian iconography to talk about things are now speaking in mainstream terms at a time when hip-hop is suddenly on the main stage. Everybody's paying attention. So now it's starting to use kind of the popular religion of North America.